Hey everybody, let's go over the important stimulus check information. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 was passed by Congress and then signed by President Biden a couple months ago. And now, we're just waiting for President Biden to do what it takes. To do all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus checks. He must keep his promise to the American people and send out more stimulus relief payments. I believe, folks, that President Biden can get the job done. And I believe that many of our politicians, the Republicans and Democrats, can unite together and actually give us a fourth stimulus check before the end of the year. Do you guys agree? If you do, then be sure to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends and family.
We need to provide a direct emergency $2,000 cash payment to every household in America every month for the duration of the crisis to provide them with the assistance they need to pay their bills and take care of their families. We must place an immediate moratorium on evictions, on foreclosures, and utility shutoffs, and suspend payment on mortgage loans for primary residences and utility bills. In other words, it would be unacceptable that people could lose their homes, lose their apartments.
So folks, if you received unemployment benefits in 2020 and then paid taxes on that money, you'll be getting some or all of those taxes back via direct deposit or the mail. And one of the provisions in the plan was that taxes on up to $10,200 in unemployment benefits would be waived for people earning less than $150,000 a year. Everybody, this is what Bernie Sanders is doing to send out the fourth stimulus check and also increase the Social Security benefits. In my opinion, Bernie Sanders is one of the few politicians looking out for the American people. It seems to me that he wants to help out the American people very much. Do you approve of Bernie Sanders, folks? Tell me in the comments below. So Bernie Sanders is digging in to preserve the size of his $3.5 trillion budget blueprint. The Vermont senator told Political News that he's not interested in cutting the size of a $3.5 trillion spending plan.
Fellow progressives initially wanted. What do you say to those fellow progressives who feel that maybe you gave in too easily right now?
Well, what I would say is, Wolf, number one, we are in fact looking at the most consequential piece of legislation for working families since the Great Depression. So this is a very big deal, which is going to transform the lives of many millions.
Bernie Sanders actually said the truth is we need more, and the needs are there. This is, in my view, the minimum of what we should be spending. Bernie Sanders, folks, initially proposed a $6 trillion budget plan in June, but he struck a deal with centrist Democrats on a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint. The House does plan to advance the bill after a 48-hour showdown between Speaker Pelosi and moderate Democrats. Democrats aim to fully finance the plan with a range of tax hikes on the wealthiest Americans. And the budget plan does face an uphill battle to passage in the Senate, where it's split 50-50, and Democrats are using a fast-track process known as reconciliation to secure its eventual passage with only a simple majority vote.
That is why, after the bipartisan infrastructure legislation passes this chamber, I will immediately move to the other track, passing a budget resolution with reconciliation instructions, which will allow the Senate to make historic investments in American jobs, American families, and efforts to reverse climate change. Both tracks are very much needed by the American people, and we must accomplish both.
The Democrats and independents and working class Republicans all over the country support the plan to finally invest in working families. So yes, folks, it looks like Bernie Sanders does want to help out the American people by sending out more stimulus payments. The IRS has already sent out 8.7 million refunds, totaling over $10 billion. But another 1.5 million taxpayers will be receiving refunds in August. More taxpayers will receive money throughout the year. Multiple sources are saying that the federal refunds are now reported as income on next year's federal tax return. In regards to the child tax credit payments, the first installment of the CTC lifted 3 million kids out of poverty in July. And that reduction represented a 25% cut in the monthly child poverty rate to 11.9% from 15.8%. Now, child poverty is a measure of the share of kids living in households below the poverty line. So the American Rescue Plan raised the maximum child tax credit to $3,000 or $3,600 per dependent depending on age, and that's up from $2,000. It also offered a tax break to more low-income households and turned the benefit into a monthly income stream. Parents can get up to $250 or $300 per dependent, folks. The Child Tax Credit Update portal now lets you opt out of receiving this year's monthly child tax credit payments. And that means that instead of receiving monthly payments, You can wait until 2021. You can wait until you file your 2021 taxes in order to receive the $3,600 lump sum from the federal government.
Before breaking for August recess, they did not act on extending the eviction moratorium. This to myself and to Representative Cori Bush, as well as Representatives Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Mondaire Jones, Jimmy Gomez, and many other representatives in the US Congress, was utterly unacceptable. And so this is kind of the middle school stuff sometimes that we see in Congress. There are some people, very likely, there's probably very likely overlap with those 10 conservative Democrats that I was telling you about earlier, and the folks that did not want to extend the national eviction moratorium. But essentially what we know is that there were folks that would have rather have left town than actually cast a vote on whether we should extend the national eviction moratorium. So instead of voting to extend it, and I don't mean voting yes or no, but just voting at all, they didn't want to cast their vote, they decided to leave town. And so myself and some of the other representatives that I mentioned earlier said that is completely unacceptable, and we helped lead a protest on the steps of the Capitol. Myself and Cori Bush and many others slept on the steps of the Capitol for several days, and in order to create the political pressure necessary to prompt the Biden administration to extend the moratorium. And we were successful. And I want to thank many of our constituents, because there was actually a decent amount of constituents that hopped on buses that we provided from here in our district down to Washington, D.C. to also lend their support. And we were successful. And so what we did and what those actions resulted in was eviction protections for 11 million Americans for the month of August. Now, what happened last night was that the Supreme Court overturned the moratorium, and they ended the federal moratorium and said that it wouldn't, that it could not continue. Now, some people would say, see, there you go, we told you so. But to those folks who say that it was not worth it,